add to new business, letters to our MLA and MP. Item number 8.11, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to declare a conflict of interest in item number 7.4, the Municipal Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Program. Anything to do with that, I'm going to be excusing myself from the table during those discussions.
I move for the approval of the minutes for February the 15th, 2018 special meeting minutes, February 28, 2018 regular council meeting minutes, and February 28, 2018 in-camera meeting minutes.
A little bit strange to be asking this question in what they call sometimes a mundane task in an approval of minutes. Should there not be any March meeting minutes there, or are those not there at this time? They were on our in-camera agenda.
They're there, and they're on my agenda. They're not on your agenda?
No.
Okay.
It might be in camera, I don't know.
They should, March 14th, Committee of the Whole, and March 14th, in-camera minutes were provided for you in camera, and they should be part of the motion.
Correct. And that's why I made the discussion in that motion, because I actually, Councillor Durkee is the one that pointed out and asked.
If I could, I would move to approve the minutes of March, what is it? 14th, Committee of the Whole,
And
and March
March 14th.
14
In camera.
in camera.
Carried. I'm sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Item number 5 is the warden's remarks. I'm going to try and keep them brief. It's only 4 pages. Oh, I'm sorry, I only wrote on one side. As you're all well aware, you've been to a lot of meetings this month. March has been very busy for all of us. To start off, as we're all well aware, the 1st of March, the 3rd of March, our development department, Mark Blend, had put on an agricultural forum at the Rogers Grand Hotel. And I just wanted, I know somebody might think agriculture in Southwest or in Yarmouth County is kind of a, I won't say a dying thing, but this forum included all of the South Shore, from Lunenburg all the way around to Digby, and Mark had done an excellent job, and I just wanted to tell him thank you very much on behalf of council for a job well done. Agricultural still is, or can be, a very important aspect or asset to Yarmouth County, so it's a start. And just let you know, I had invited Mark on the following, I think it was the 5th, to Truro for Divert was putting on a summit pertaining to agriculture on the compost, the viability of compost in the agricultural industry. And I had Mark go along because I had the opportunity to meet with Lisa LeBlanc, who is a very strong advocate for the agricultural industry. And we had a nice discussion with her, and I think the opportunity for her to come to Yarmouth and to present to our council and to give you a good idea on the agricultural industry and the opportunities that there is out there, even though we don't realize it, but there is a lot of, and she has been a big forerunner up in the Truro, Colchester area. A lot of projects going on. As you're well aware, on the 8th of March, councillors and staff, we had gone over our capital priorities and preparing for the upcoming budget meetings and so on. On the 9th, I had the opportunity to do another interview for a position at WasteCheck. On the 13th, I done a CBC radio interview early in the morning, and I know Councillor Allen had been, I'd put his name forward to be the other spokesperson. They were looking for a fishing boat captain that was well aware of the weather conditions and so on. And anyway, they couldn't make contact with Councillor, and so they got a hold of Lucien Leblanc from Argot. And early in the morning, both Lucien and myself done a bit of an interview on the Doppler radar. That session that we has had a lot of good reviews from the general public and from some of the fishing industry, as Councillor Cushing has approached me a few times from different people in the industry and so on. And it is not a dying thing. I think there's a great opportunity in sometime in the spring. We'll have a get together with some of the industry leaders and so on, and then bring back the climate control people and have another further discussion on that. On the 15th, the interview committee met and reviewed some candidates for our CAO's position, and this is ongoing. Our next meeting is April 4th, and we'll carry on from there and then give an update shortly after that to our fellow councillors. On the 16th, Councillor Allen and myself, we went to Bridgewater to meet with CNSOBP, which is the Canadian Nova Scotia Offshore Petroleum Board. This was a meeting for elected officials only. It was a meeting when I had talked with them, or talked to CNSOBP, pertaining to none of us could make the meeting that they had in Halifax. So I asked them if they would reach out and try to set up a meeting, and which they did, and they invited municipal councillors from Digby all the way around to I think it was, I'll say, Bridgewater, and there was a good representation there. Not as many as what I thought, but it was a good representation. And I will pick on or ask Councillor Allen to give a little bit of an overview for you at the end of my report, because I think it's important that you fully understand where we're going, or where this is going and so on. But on the 19th, WasteCheck meeting, also at 12, that was at 9:30. Councillor LeBlanc, you were at that meeting to start with. And then we had a bylaw and policy at 12. And then we had a Yarmouth Industrial Commission meeting at 5:15 on that day. Then again, on the 20th, there was an elected officials and some residents met in Shelburne again to discuss the rural health issue and so on. This has all come about because of the closures, mostly at the Shelburne Hospital, and is now starting to affect the Digby Regional Hospital. And this was the second meeting they had, and there was still quite a few of us that turned up. And what they're asking for, they want to form a working committee, because in that working committee they have some ideas and so on where they want to go with this and what they want to do, but they're looking for a commitment from municipal units, and that commitment will be for an elected official to sit there and go to these meetings to try and organize and the go forward, how they can approach and try to I guess use the word assist in finding some replacements and or new doctors to fill some of the vacancies. I told them, as so did the other elected representatives, that we'd be taking it back to our council. So I'm going to have it put on our committee of the whole, and council can have a discussion at that time if they're willing to participate in this. They want to do like a national day or a provincial day when elected officials will go to the legislature and have a letter to put forward to the Liberal government pertaining to the issue. Then again, on the 21st, Councillor Allen and myself went to another meeting pertaining to the offshore petroleum, and that's put on by this, I believe it's the Citizens Protection of Oceans in Nova Scotia. And there was a gentleman that spoke there. He's from within Nova Scotia. He's just up here from Cornwallis, and he spoke really good pertaining to the protection of the oceans, the Bay of Fundy, and around here to the southwestern Nova Scotia and so on. And I had a discussion with him after and so on, and he'd be more than willing to come down some night or some evening and make a presentation to you pertaining to not just the offshore oil, but the oceans themselves. And I think it would be a good opportunity for us to hear him and for it to be televised so that the people, he's not deathly against offshore oil and so on, but he gives you all the positives and the negatives. And I think that would be a good opportunity. Over the last month, I have met quite a little bit with Derek and had discussions with him pertaining to how this winter has gone so far pertaining to our equipment and so on, and all the snow clearing operations. Also, we've had discussions, as we're all well aware, of the movie over at the Cape Shoe Light and in Leif Erikson Park, how things are moving forward over there and some of the issues that are cropping up. I have spoken on a regular basis with Greg, the acting CAO, per a lot of the upcoming meetings that we're going to be having, our budget projections and so on that we're going to be going into here very shortly and so on. Our joint council meetings that we've had, some of the items that have been on there. With EMO, there's some, not issues, but there's some things coming forward there in the next little while. The Yarmouth International Airport, again with also with the Yarmouth Area Industrial Commission. There is a couple of things that I want to say. One's a highlight, and one's, I'm not going to say sad, but there is one there that it will affect Yarmouth County. One last evening, I haven't had the opportunity every time they've had a hockey game. I've usually been going somewhere or coming home from somewhere. Anyway, the Mariners won last evening. Kudos to them. I think it's great. They've been a good supporter of taking the Yarmouth name around the province, even across Atlantic Canada, and they've done an excellent job. This is their first step onto the road to the finals. I wish them all the best, but I also want to take this opportunity to thank the general public for the support that they've given. They had a sold-out crowd. All the tickets were gone at 12:30 yesterday afternoon. Amazing, 1,500 tickets and so on to the loyal fans, to the new fans that went last evening. Thank you for supporting this organization, this team. It's been good for Yarmouth. The last thing this week, it was just been announced, the Memorial Club. They've been around for 33 years. They've been an excellent organization. They've done a lot of good. A lot of kids have gone through the Memorial Club, and I think we can be very proud of where a lot of those kids have gone, what they've excelled to, and so on. From being in that, I believe the organization has taught those young students, those young adults, a lot of good things that they've carried forward and so on. I wish them well in all their endeavors and so on. To Mr. Bashira, for originally starting that organization. It's been amazing. So to you, Joe, thank you on behalf of this council, previous councils, and from the citizens of Yarmouth County. Thank you for a job well done, and all the best to all of the students that are there now and so on. Be proud of the organization that you've been affiliated with. On that note, that ends my report, but I would like to, if you will indulge me, I would like to ask Councillor Allen to kind of give you his thoughts on the Bridgewater meeting and the Shelburne meeting, if he doesn't mind. Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We attended these meetings. There was representation from the warden from Clare, the warden from Barrington, myself and our warden,
Penny
deputy
Smith.
mayor from Yarmouth,
Penny Smith.
Penny Smith,
Warden, yeah.
warden from Shelburne. There was a representative from the council from Lunenburg,
Argyle.
Argyle. The warden from Argyle was also there.
And
It was a very informative meeting. They were addressing our concerns, and we had many. Our big thing is Southwest Nova is a fishing industry. We bring in $700 million a year, and we don't want it to be destroyed. And they were trying to address most of our concerns, but the one thing that was made clear is it's not going to affect their policy. It's not going to affect their rules and regulations. As long as BP Oil checks off their list of regulations that is provided by the board, they will be drilling for oil off our coast. They weren't nasty about it or anything like that, but at the sum of the whole meeting was that is the case. They have plans in place. They have their regulations, which they feel are as good as anywhere. And I guess that's fine. I personally am a fisherman. I don't think if an oil can spill for 14 days without being capped is good for anyone in our area. But anyway. Then we went to Bridgewater and we heard the flip side of the story. Bay of Fundy Inshore Fishermen's Association Representative Colin Sproul had great information. He's the gentleman that Leland says is going to come in and do a presentation for us. He has a lot of interesting data. He seems to know, does a lot of research. Very smart man, well spoken. We also met with Antonia. I'm going to ruin her last name, but it is, I want to say Uez, and she's an author. She's wrote about BP's oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. She's done a lot of research as far as spills and oil companies. She had a lot of good information to give us. The main thing is we are looking for economic development, and I can't really say as either group says we're going to get any. I guess my summation when I come out of it was, should we be pushing our MP, I don't know, to slow this down? Is it worth it for us to take a chance on our industry for no economic development out of it? And can they show us that there's going to be economic development? Because that is one thing that the board never did. They did not show us that we were going to get anything out of this in the end. We thought maybe we may get ships coming in and out of Yarmouth supply and stuff. That looks like that will be out of Halifax. So I guess all in all, I wasn't expecting to be doing this tonight. Thank you. I would like to see Colin Sproul come in and speak. I would also like to see us maybe speak to our MP about this. I just feel our end of our province, our Southwest Shore, is a fishing industry, and we're taking a big chance by letting these companies come in and drill, especially offshore Nova Scotia. It's a different weather climate. It's not like down in the south. It's, and I don't know. That's just my opinion, but when I came away with it, my heart is just telling me in my brain, when it says, if we're not getting an economic spin-off of it, why are we willing to take a risk? If there's no reward at all, why take a risk? So, anyways, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. There was a couple of points that Daniel touched on from the Bridgewater meeting. They told us about the capping operation and the reasoning and so on, how that all worked. The cap that they put on a blowout, as per se, weighs hundreds of tons. So the ability for just a normal ship to place it is not readily available. But a ship to be capable of doing that has to be within 5 days, of that cap, which means the ships have to be somewhere in Norway or wherever one of those caps are within a 5-day to be able to pick it up, and then the trip across the Atlantic to be able to place it. Now that ship has to be able to lift hundreds of tons in one lift, so that's why there's not one in Halifax, because there wouldn't be no ship. You can have it, but there's no ship around here that can do that. So that's the reasoning behind that. And so there were some concerns from us on that discussion and so on. But it was Colin who basically at the Shelburne meeting stated what is going to be the economic benefits from Lunenburg around to Digby really going to be. Are you going to see any royalty money? Maybe, no guarantee. Are you going to see any economic spin-off pertaining to businesses getting any work? No. You may get some employment from some of our residents working on the rig, but right now not likely. On a production platform, yes, you'd get some, but it's a specialty drilling and so on, so most of the people that'll be on the drilling rig are already on the drilling rig. Okay, so that was his main concern and so on that respect. So let me see who's Councillor Cushion.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to say this or not, but back in your remarks about the March 5th, the agriculture session at the Grand Hotel.
Yes.
I did attend that.
Okay.
And
Yes.
it was very interesting. It was a lot of about organic gardening and small gardeners and whatnot, but it was the opportunity for the local farmers or local agriculture industry around here to expand and to move on, and some good information there. Another good session that was there was the beehives, which are in danger and whatnot, and they've got a new model out for them, so which is pretty interesting. I thought the whole session was very educational.
Yes.
And again, Mark, I give high praises to Mark for making this happen in our area.
Yeah.
So I just want to let you know that we were represented there.
Yeah. No, I knew that, and I apologize for not mentioning your name as having been there and so on. Okay, thank you, councillors. Item number 6, presentations. There is no presentations this evening, but item 6.1 is the second reading of the Water Supply Upgrade Lending Program Bylaw W-1028-17. What is the wishes? Go ahead, Councillor Durkee.
Thank you. There were some amendments to the Water Supply Upgrade Lending Program bylaw, and so therefore I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading of the Water Supply Upgrade Lending Program bylaw W-1028-17.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Cushing. Was there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. I guess at this time, as there was no presentations pertaining to that, and this was the second reading, does this not automatically go to the third reading? The second reading is final. So that's it. It's passed and it goes forward from here. Okay, thank you. I have to go to two things here. 6.2, policies for approval. I guess I would open the floor to the chairperson, Councillor Durkee.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the low income exemption policy L-068-09.
Been moved by Councillor Durkee, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you very much. 6.2.2. You have the floor.
Sorry, thank you. Just waiting for the computer to update. I would like, going to make a motion to accept or to approve the fees policy F-044-02. So there have been a couple of changes in our fee policy, and they can be found in our online. I don't remember which ones we exactly, sorry, there it was. What we added was the water supply upgrade. We did $200 plus applicable taxes with a one-time administration fee, refundable at a rate of 80% if the lending agreement does not get executed. Administration fee will have no effect on and will not form part of the final water supply loan amount.
Do we have a second, been moved by Councillor Durkee, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. If I may, can we hold off here for just a second? I've gone through this and I'm not sure. There was one. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Mr. Chair, I believe there was only one addition to that, which is the one that
Yeah.
I mentioned.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just the water supply. Okay, I get, yeah, I'm fine then, yeah. Something else. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried, thank you. 6.2.3, Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve the interest policy 1-0, it's actually I-068-00. We've added part 3, which is interest charged on the water supply upgrade loan. Interest on the water supply upgrade loan will be calculated on the basis of the municipality's cost to borrow at the time of the effective date of the agreement. Interest will begin accruing when the water supply upgrade is completed as evidenced by the date on a certificate of completion or 30 days after the date of the last invoice submitted for payment, whichever is earlier. In the event of default, interest shall be accrued on the amount then due and payable at the same rate applied by the municipality for unpaid taxes and charges in default at rates 1.5% per month or 18% per year. Once in default status, the lien will be subject to the default rate until entirely repaid.
So moved. Do we have a seconder? Second. Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Any further discussion? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you. 6.2.4, Councillor Durkee.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the audit committee policy A-0210-18, which is the purpose of the primary purpose of the audit committee is to provide advice to council on all matters relating to audit and finance.
Do we have a seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Durkee, seconded by Councillor Allen. Any further discussion? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you. Item number 7, new business or business arising, sorry. Port Maitland Beach. Councillor Durkee, you have the floor.
Again.
Yes.
Yes, we had made a motion a couple of months back with regards to working with Department of Natural Resources to improve basically the facilities at Port Maitland Beach. And unfortunately, I was away when that was last discussed, so I just want a quick update. I noticed that a letter was to be sent to DNR to possibly meet with them, as well as YASTA was going to be looking at the what it would cost for facilities, and I just wondered if there was an update to that.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to pass that off to the interim CAO. Great.
Yeah, I can update you on that, and there's not a whole lot to add. I think we did agree that we wanted to speak to DNR about the status of some of the facilities and the provincial parks and campgrounds in our area, and I think what we decided to do before we had that meeting was to do a little bit of research and some of our own homework on what's available here, and also to do some comparisons on facilities that are available in other regions of the province, so that we can have an informed discussion with the proper representatives, DNR, when we try to push our case for having some resources spent on the assets that are here. So right now we are still in that gathering mode. Actually, both YASTA and our economic development officer have been tasked with trying to come up with some type of an inventory of the facilities that are available here, as well as some of the facilities that are available further afield in the province, so that we can compare and contrast and have something a little more concrete to discuss with representatives rather than just a general dissatisfaction of the state of affairs.
Excellent. Thank you so
Okay.
much. I really appreciate the update.
Okay, 7.2, Lake Vaughan Fire Department, request for funding. 7.2.1, brief for council discussion. You have that in your package. What is the wishes of council at this time? They're looking for $130,000 to purchase of a new fire vehicle, firefighting vehicle, and so you've had that. Councillor Allen?
Are we looking for a motion to approve this?
Yes.
I believe they came in, we discussed this, yeah. I'd like to make a motion to approve their application or I'm
Yeah,
not sure
yeah.
exactly how to
Yeah.
word it, but I would like to make a motion to approve their application to borrow the money to move forward with their tanker.
Okay. Been moved by Councillor Allen. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Cushion. Before we go to the vote, I just want to make a quick comment. The municipality of Yarmouth has been doing this over the last number of years. This is, I believe, the second time. Deputy Warden, you can probably help me out on this. This is their second time that they've come in to request funding to help them out. And on their first request, I believe they paid us back a little sooner than what was required. Yeah. And so go ahead, if you can add a little information for the general public.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. That is true. They did do this, the same thing on a previous application, and they paid us off in less than half the time, or I shouldn't say paid us off, paid the taxpayer off. I was actually down when they made the presentation to council in the committee of the whole meeting. I went down that evening to a fireman's meeting, and they had discussed that. And that fire department certainly is on the ball when it comes to finances and stuff like that. They know where their money's coming from. They know what they need, and they're out to get it. And they're very motivated group. It was also nice to see that there were some younger people there. I wasn't necessarily the youngest one there, so they appear to be moving along with their recruiting. And I think this is a department that works very hard for the municipality district of Yarmouth. As if you hear also across the on CGLS, you always hear that they are out on a lot of mutual aid calls, not only in the municipality of Yarmouth, but also in surrounding areas like the municipality of Argyle, and they also help out the town quite a bit. So I think it's very important that we help them in any way that we can, and I'm certainly in support of this motion.
Okay. Councillor Cunningham?
Just to add those comments, and the amounts for $130,000 and the total cost is $258,000 plus HST, so they've already raised a considerable amount and have the means to certainly pay back the loan over the 10-year amortization period. So it's a really good thing to see the volunteer fire departments working in our communities. So that's a great thing. So hats off to them.
I know every one of our volunteer fire departments in the communities that they support or where they're located and so on, they are a vital part of the community and so on. And wherever the municipality to a degree to try and help them, I think it's important. And I'm trying to go back. I think this was thought up, or I shouldn't say thought up. This was a policy to the deputy warden again when you first became a councillor, was it not, that we worked on? Yes, yeah, to help. Because the deputy warden is a volunteer fire person, so you know it's been a good thing. Anyway, the motion has been made. If there's no further discussion, ready for the question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think this is a great time, since we're talking about fire departments and what they're doing, to mention that there's a ratepayers meeting on March 29th at 7 p.m. At the Port Maitland Fire Hall, and they are looking for an extension for their building to house new equipment.
And at what time was that?
7 p.m.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that information. 7.3, Yarmouth Hospital Foundation grant request. You have that in your package, and I believe there again. So what is the wishes of council? I'm sorry. I think it's, who have I got on first here? I'm sorry. Be the deputy warden. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This is something that comes through every year in regards to their hospital gala, and it's something that we've supported in many occasions over the past few years. Therefore, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the Yarmouth Hospital Foundation grant request of the amount of $1,200 as stated to be put forward in next year's budget allocations.
1819.
18-19, correct.
Do we have a mover? Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay. Seconded by Councillor, moved by Deputy Warden John Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Trevor Cunningham. Pardon me? Okay. Before we go to the motion, we're looking for attendees to go to that. Is there any councillor that wishes? Councillor Cushion? Anybody else?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'll be away. I'm already going.
Okay. Anybody else? You wanted to go last year, but you couldn't. Okay. It is, I believe, the 28th of April, I believe. Okay. Okay. At this time, I have two functions. The Lions Club convention, their due is on the same time. And yes, the executive secretary would like those seats filled. So what is the suggestion of council? What would you like to try and do with those at this time? I'll just say right now, Lauren, you and your wife would be attending? Okay. So we have 6 tickets. Go ahead,
So,
Councillor.
Mr. Chair, I think perhaps we should give those seats away to volunteers in the municipality. I think that makes sense. That's what we've done in previous years, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a proper thing. So perhaps we could have a conversation about that at the next or
Okay.
staff
Can
as
I-
well. Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion if that's the route we want to go? I know the Memorial Club is winding down, but would it be a good thought from council if Joe would pick or would like to pick some? I don't know if it has to. Well, they got to be 19, don't they? Have to. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. Yeah, let's ask Mr. Bashir if he knows a couple others that might like to go, and or is,
So when you just offering the ticket, Mr. Chair, the tickets to give to whoever, or yeah.
Just two.
what 2 for him? So we got 4 gone. We have 4 left,
Yes.
and you're
Former members of the Memorial Club that are might be.
okay. Can we have a conversation then with Joe tomorrow and see? At this time, I just wanted go ahead, Deputy Warden.
Mr. Chair, this is something that the municipality or the council has never done as long as I've been sitting here. I think a good suggestion would be set aside at least 2 of those tickets for staff, because over the years, our municipal staff has worked extremely hard for council and on behalf of people in the municipality. Maybe we could have that through a lottery draw. Every staff member puts their name in a hat. That way it would be fair. I think council should be prudent, at least set aside 2 of those tickets for that.
Yeah.
I believe that, and if we sit here and cannot find any more, maybe we should put 4 tickets in there. That's just my suggestion.
Yeah. Oh, Councillor Allen just decided to go.
No, just to reiterate what John's saying, I agree with John. I believe offering Joe, Mr. Bashir and his wife a pair of tickets, and then offering the employees of the municipality an opportunity if they want to go and put their name in, and if we don't get any interest, then maybe we look at a different avenue.
Okay. 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 Do that. Okay. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll have a discussion with the boss and see which one we should go to, either the Lions Club or to the gala. But I have to have that discussion with the boss. Oh, yeah. Oh, where are we at here? All mixed up now. Okay, 7.4. 7.4. Would it be in the records, please, that the deputy warden stepped away from the table? 7.4, municipal alcohol, tobacco, cannabis program from the March 14th minutes. Councillor Cunningham?
Yeah, I'd like to make a notice of motion to bring this to the next regularly scheduled council meeting to discuss particularly bringing this item from PAC to bylaw committee. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Item number 8, new business. Oh, I'm sorry, no, 7.5. The purchase sale contract for Arcadia School. That's in your package. Councillor Allen, you had your mic on. Would you
I think I'm looking to make a motion about.
go ahead?
I'd like to make a motion to agree to the terms of the purchase and sale agreement as written, and to allow the warden to execute the agreement.
We have a mover. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Okay, moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Cushion. Is there any discussion on that motion?
I think I'm in agreement with certainly the motion and is moved and seconded, and it's a fantastic opportunity to put that property into the hands of an organization that wants to develop it, and it does serve to take that off of the municipal taxpayers' hands in terms of maintaining and supporting the building, heating it. And so for those reasons, I think this is a fantastic opportunity for the municipality district of Yarmouth. So those would be my comments.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Warden?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I guess this question is through you to Councillor Allen. I did not hear that this purchase and sale agreement for what property was. Am I not mistaken that this should be stated that it's for the sale of the Arcadia School property in the motion?
Go ahead.
I can
Reword it.
reword that then, I guess.
Okay.
But I'd like to make a motion to agree to the terms of the purchase and sale agreement for the property known as the Arcadia School, and to allow the warden to execute the agreement.
Seconder agreed with that? Been, okay. Was there any further discussion on the motion? It was a good point, Deputy Warden. Yeah. Yep. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you very much. Item number 8, and new business, 8.1, development reports. Item 8.1.1, the amended November report, explanation of change. Who has that? Who wants to take that? Go ahead, Deputy Warden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to accept the amended November development report.
Do we have a seconder for that amendment?
Second.
Been moved by Deputy Warden Cunningham and seconded by Councillor Durkee. Any further discussion on that?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I was the one that originally brought this up in our last regularly scheduled council meeting. There seemed to be a little bit of a discrepancy in regards to the amounts of development, and this is in regards to a property out in, I believe, in the, right along the airport stretch. What happened there is, from time to time, apparently projects from a developer may want to start even though that they do not have all of their plans in place. So what the development department can do, and I didn't realize this at the time, is they can issue something called a permission to proceed in part development agreement. And that's exactly what happened in the case of November 2017. However, what happened is there was a little bit of a technical error when they put it in. There is an explanation here on our regular council agenda that
yes.
all the public can see.
Yes.
At the time that the permission to proceed in part was granted, the building permit approval button may have gotten selected inadvertently and was immediately canceled. However, that did show up on our development report back in November. So that's where the discrepancy came from. And I'd like to thank the development department for bringing that forward. I've been known to forget a lot of names, but for some reason I very rarely forget a number. And I was the one that pointed that out. But there has been a correction. That correction has been to my satisfaction. So I recommend that council approve the motion put forward.
So there is a motion on the floor, been moved and had a seconder. Are you ready for the question? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. 8.1.2, the January development report, deferred from the February meeting.
Chair.
Deputy Warden?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve, sorry, I get that wrong every time. A motion to accept the January development report that was deferred from the February meeting.
Okay, been moved. Do we have a seconder for that? Seconded, moved by Deputy Warden, seconded by Councillor Durkee. Was there any further discussion on that motion? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you. 8.1.3, the February development report. Who has that? Go ahead, Deputy Warden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to accept the February development report as presented.
Do we have a seconder? Moved by Deputy Warden, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you very much. 8.2, appointment of building official. Who has that in there? Who has that? Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, I'll move that we, the council appoint Tina McKay as a building official, primarily to fill in during absences of regular staff.
It's been moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Was there any further discussion? Councillor Fallon.
Yes. So just to clarify, she will only be in to fill in when other staff is not here, or will she be contracted during the next year?
She's on a retainer, for lack of a better word, for the next year.
For the next year.
Presently, she's going to be engaged to come in on the development inspectors, our director of inspections time off coming up in April. That'll be the first week that we have her on to,
Yes.
to fill in the gaps. And we've retained her for the next year to fill future gaps that we anticipate might come up and help overwork staff until we have longer term solutions in place.
So it won't be just for vacation times. She will be taking part in
Only if there's a dire need for
A dire-
him to be away or on vacations.
Okay.
But we thought it was a good plan B to have
Yes.
in the event that
Oh.
there's something is
Okay.
required.
I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Question been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. You know, thinking of a lot of different things. Well, here, you know, we're looking for people to go to the gala, and here, and Greg, I think we're meeting with Sean Clark, or you're meeting possibly with Sean Clark next week. Well, I can't think of two better people to go than the possibility of the actors. They should. Would that be an opportunity, to get them out in, and they would be representing the municipality, Is that a thought?
Council can decide on that.
No,
I'm trying to work all angles. 8.3, grant request. 8.3.1, Hope. 8.3.2, the Bay Shore Community Club. 8.3.3, Tusket River Environmental Protection Association. And 8.3.4, Southwest Nova Biosphere Reserve Association. I have to apologize, I have not opened those, so I don't know if there's any ones that are immediate or not. But Deputy Warden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I don't recall, I did go through these, but I don't recall anything being time sensitive. Therefore, I make a motion that we move forward these to our budgetary deliberations. I can't remember what the date was, but.
Yeah. Been moved by Deputy Warden, seconded by Councillor Durkee. Was there any further discussion on that motion? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you. Update on UNSM conference planning. That was a request that I guess I had put forward to the executive assistant, pertaining if we knew. And Councillor Durkee, you sit on the spring conference. Do you have any update that you could give us on that? Thank you very much. Go ahead.
I do. The committee met yesterday, as a matter of fact, and we've been working on the Friday night function. So we're going to be hosting a kitchen party at the Mariner Center. We will be feeding our guests lobsters, and so we're going to be looking at the councillors to assist with the cooking of the lobsters, and the Mariner Center will be providing the rest of the food that goes along with it. We are also going to be having the radiators come and play at that night, so it should be a really good time. I know UNSM is working on the rest of the organization of the conference. Thursday night, the caucus meetings are going to be held at the Grand Hotel, and Friday, all of the conference workshops will be held at the Mariner Center, and there'll be a bus provided for those people staying at the Grand Hotel to go. And then Saturday morning will also be conference activities. But we're looking forward to a really good time at UNSM. Also, those I believe it's Friday evening after the caucus meals. There'll be caucus meetings. There'll be hospitality suite in Haley's at the Grand, and we're inviting any musicians to come and bring their instruments and sing a few tunes and just have a good time.
That's good. That's good. Thank you very much. I just want to give you an update. Regional chairs will be presenting at UNSM Spring Workshop at an open session pertaining to EPR, Extended Producer's Responsibility, and so on, and trying to enlighten our fellow councillors on the plastic issue that is besieging, I guess I'll say, all of Atlantic Canada, but Nova Scotia and so on, and how it's being managed at this time. So it'll be a good, and it's an open session. It's going to be good. Anyway, thank you very much, Councillor. Appreciate it. Email from UNSM, request for council's feedback on UNSM's priorities for 2018. You had that in your package, and I don't know what your, okay, Go ahead, Deputy Warden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. UNSM has put forward 10 priorities in front of us, and they'd like us to narrow it down to the top 5 by April the
Yeah.
30th, from my understanding in that letter. And I'll read off the 10 priorities that they're talking about. Number 1, in no necessarily or particular order. Number 1 is age-friendly places. Number 2 is cannabis legislation. Number 3 is a code of conduct. Item number 4 is economic development. Item number 5 is housing. Item number 6 is immigration. Item number 7 is municipal modernization. Number 8 is minimum planning standards. Number 9 is solid waste system. And number 10 is police services. Apparently they want us to make a decision on what we feel our top 5 priorities are. So what I would suggest is we move those 10 priorities forward to our next committee of the whole meeting in April. Therefore, we'll have time to digest it, and we could discuss at that time what our plan is and what our top 5 of those 10 are going to be. And then it will have enough time to make a motion at our next regularly scheduled council meeting in April to forward them off before April the 30th. That would be my suggestion. I will be here for the committee of the whole meeting, but I will not be here for the April regular council meeting, so at least I'll have input on that. That's just my suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cunningham?
I agree with that, but I would also add that at that time we should have some kind of mechanism to, because there are 10 priorities and only 5 will survive, so it may be useful to have a little matrix for each of us to fill out, so we could reverse order them, like the number 1 priority, for instance. I mean, I've looked through them, and probably mine would be municipal modernization, municipal government act revisions, because we've talked a lot about that. So that may be number 1. So my number 7 might be number 1. So maybe staff could come together with the weighting. So your number 1's worth 10, and your number 10's worth 1, and we'd weight them all if we wished, and we could do a little addition that talk about them individually, score them, and then have staff just quickly tabulate and come up with the top 5, if that's agreeable to everybody. Because if we just talk about it, it will be almost impossible to, it will take a long time and be almost impossible to, we can discuss it and then I'm guessing quickly fill out the little matrix and have staff score it, come back to us, and then we could make a, certainly choose to or not to choose to move on those top 5. Maybe we'd have, those are the appropriate ones. So just my thoughts.
Deputy Warden again?
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree, because we could spend a lot of time sitting and discussing each one of them and hammering it back and forth. And as I stated earlier, they had listed them 1 through 10, and it was in no particular order, because as Councillor Cunningham did state, he wanted to, one of his top priorities was the municipal modernization, and that is very true, because even though it's number 7 on this list, I'm not sure if that's what they have on their list. But they asked us to put forward our top 5, and maybe number 10 is our number 1. I don't know. But I think that's a very good suggestion, that we have a matrix of a scoring system, so we're not hammering on this for hours, which, yeah, I totally agree with that.
Okay. Everybody fine with that? Okay. For your item 8.6, FYI, update on survey for Yarmouth and Area Cancer Service Review. You have that in your package, and they're looking for feedback on a survey by April 6th. And I believe, I'm not sure the way I read it, whether it's that an individual councillor, or are they looking for a complete council to report on that? Pardon me? Individual. That's what I kind of thought, but I just wanted to clarify that for you, and so on. So it gives you the locations and so on. I don't know if it's, I don't see where it was on mine, where it's online. Yarmouth Regional Hospital. It is online. Does it say on the? I don't have.
It's under the Yarmouth Health.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, you just, yeah, I see, yeah, yeah, okay. So that, like I say, that's for FYI. Item 8.7 is another FYI. Nova Scotia budget highlights. 8.7.1 is the 2018 Nova Scotia Department of Business Plan. Now, I don't know, does anybody have any comments, or Greg, was there comments that you had wished, or?
No, not in particular. There's a lot of things in there that are interesting and will have an impact on municipalities, so I thought it would be information that would be interesting for you to have a look at.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, certainly one of the pieces there in the one of the business plan highlights of municipal affairs. The very first one is the modernization of the Municipal Government Act. So that just adds to my theme of maybe placing that on the business that UNSM considers, because there should be obviously some alignment between what UNSM's doing and what perhaps the municipal affairs is looking at doing. So I would think that would be a priority, so we'd have the input. So but just the first of many comments I guess we could make.
Okay, thank you. 8.8, the 2018 ferry service. Councillor T. Cunningham.
So given that we're fortunate enough to have ferry service, and here again, certainly that's one of the things that council fought hard for over a number of years, and worked with the provincial and federal governments to have come back to the community. I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter to the Premier and our MLA, thanking them for their hard work on the file this year, and seeing through the continuance of the ferry service to Yarmouth for and Nova Scotia, the Nova Scotia ferry service from Portland to Yarmouth for the 2018 tourist year.
It's been moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Durkee. Was there any further discussion on that? Deputy Warden?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I totally agree. It's too many times that we send off letters wanting and needing and asking for this and that. I think it's a good gesture that we forward this letter thanking them for their current support of the Nova Scotia ferry link between Nova Scotia and Portland, because as I said earlier, we always seem to be asking and needing. At least this time, I think it's a good opportunity to send a thank you. It's a good gesture.
No further discussion on that? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. 8.10, shoulder widening. Councillor Durkee. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We always have requests for sidewalks. And we had spoken with TIR when we met with them about the possibilities of having some of the shoulders widened instead as a possibility for some rural areas, which would help for safety for people to walk. I just had a recent request in Sanford. Apparently the shoulder's basically missing in parts of that. So I would just like to, I was just wondering if we ever heard anything back from TIR, and if not, can we look into that to see if that was something that they are considering? And if not, I'd like to request that we ask them to consider it.
Well, before I go to the next mic, I see you're all lit up.
Everybody's
Usually TIR comes into one of our meetings. Are they scheduled anywhere soon? Liz, do you know? Or okay. 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 What do I get on here? Councillor Cushion.
Oh, look. Thank you, Mr. Warden. Councillor Durkee, yes, TIR has been notified about this and are in somewhat favor of it. I'm glad you brought it up. I think it'd be appropriate I forget what the lady's name was who works for TIR, who's involved in in the different categories of the roads throughout the province, and they label them as a blue road or whatever color it is, sort of thing. And I think I had made a mention to TIR at one time that perhaps it'd be nice for this person to come and present to our council what are the classifications of blue roads. In other words, if it's a blue road, the province will pay for that widening of the shoulder. If it's not, then they will partner with the municipality. So maybe it might be a good time now to make a contact with this person and try to have her come in and explain how this process all works. So, all right.
Councillor Cunningham?
Just something that Councillor Durkee said brought up a thought. Lots of especially over the winter, and I know budgets are constrained, so forth, provincially, but what I will say is lots of time she mentioned shoulders are missing, and that's very true. Just this week on Session Hill, you know, they do some work there, but the grade is very, very steep, and it washes out, and it's very busy, a lot of pedestrians there, and so there's no plans to have a sidewalk there, you know, certainly anywhere in the near term. So those are, maybe we can add to the agenda, specifically that, not only specifically that, but generally, if the, you know, Department of Highways, locally, if they do an audit of shoulder conditions around the municipality, because there are a lot of places where, especially in fairly high traffic areas where there aren't sidewalks, and there are many of those that are relatively high traffic, and where people are out there, you know, talking Brooklyn Road, you know, all up, you know, up around Lakeside Road, that's pretty good there, but there are many areas where the shoulder is either very short, either very small, non-existent, and it may be that some of those aren't big cost items that they could attend to. So if we could add that to the agenda for when Mr. Houston comes in. But I also agree with Councillor Cushing that we should have the person that he referred to visit council and do a presentation and have a conversation as well.
Okay. Go ahead, Greg.
I just want to add to just add to that a little bit more. I mean, I think we are due or deserve an audience with the new local manager, who I don't believe we've met yet. So, as well as Don. Don is great too as a contact with TIR, and certainly knows well what's going on the ground. But I mean, in thinking about not having met this individual yet, which I think we should be meeting by now, I think that would be a good time to raise this issue and probably a couple others.
Okay. Councillor Cushing.
Just to make one more suggestions. I've done this in the past myself, and if any of the other councillors have noticed, as Trevor was talking about Session Hill, how it kind of washed out. Maybe we can't get it widened right now, but if there is a widening, or if it's washed out close to the pave itself, they will come repair that, because it'll eventually eat into your pave. Number one. Number two, it also presents a safety risk for anybody walking along that area. And if a vehicle's coming and if there's a hole there, they can't walk, or it becomes a hazard. So if they're made aware of those, I think you'll find that they'll address them fairly quickly.
Ooh, this is a good topic. Everybody wants one. Deputy Warden, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I'm not trying to step on Councillor Durkee's footprints here, but I'm going to piggyback a little bit on that, and she's absolutely right. The sides of the roads, 340 is another one where we see washouts and where people actually do walk, because it isn't feasible for the municipality to put a sidewalk there. However, the sides of the roads are also washing out all over the municipality. And to piggyback on that, one subject we have to speak about, and when we meet this new director and Mr. Houston, is the condition of the dirt roads across the whole municipality in Southwest Nova, as a matter of fact. I just recently learned that the roads were closed to spring weight restrictions. However, that I found out that decision comes out of Halifax. They really need to tier the spring weight road restrictions, because when they put on the rate restrictions in the municipality or Southwest region, the frost was already out. We were ready for graders weeks ago because the frost was out of the ground. And I can say that for a fact because I live on one. I know what happens when the frost does come out of the ground, what the road turns into, but they've been dry now for weeks. And there has been a grader, I do know, out on the Cleveland Road for sure, in a couple little outlying areas. However, out in the municipality, I'm getting daily calls about the road conditions. Unfortunately, we do not have any particular say on what is done. What I've been doing is I've been moving them, people, referring them to our MLA's office, giving out their phone number, and also giving out the phone numbers for the call center. And also, as Councillor Durkee had stated, like I said, I'm not trying to overtake her subject on this about roadsides. There has been complaints to me about that, about the shoulders of the roads, and I have also been referring all the questions and comments to the MLA and to the number. I can't remember right off the top of my head. I think it's 742-261-2614. I don't quote me on that, but I don't have it right in front of me. But that's the call center to make sure that TIR does know that we're having issues down here. But this year, for some reason, has been worse than others.
Thank you. Councillor Durkee?
Oh, thank you. I was just looking at the budget, and I see there's 10 million in additional funding for gravel roads for a total of 20 million. So we really, the time is right for us to bring that to their attention, that we're desperately in need of improving some of our gravel roads, as the Deputy Warden has pointed out. The nice thing that I want to add is that the person who spoke to me about Sanford said there are a lot of new families with young children moving into our areas, and they need a safe place to get out and get some exercise, and that's what inspired this, me bringing this up.
Councillor Cunningham?
I would agree with Councillor Cushing. I often do, in terms of calling Department of Highways or Department of Transportation Infrastructure Renewal, they are quite good in the local area about addressing those things. Having said that, during some of those calls, I have dug into it a little bit more, and they've been very good. But there is a standard apparently as well, that the part that's dug out right next to the pavement needs to be so many inches deep before they come and fill it. So yeah. So that's a pretty deep. It's a pretty deep standard, if you want to call it that. So in any event, certainly like the Session Hill example it is quite washed out and so forth. So I'm sure they'll come and do something there. But I think also a more permanent fix on some of those very steep, ones that wash out all the time, regularly, every sort of rainstorm. We may want to have a more, I guess, a deeper conversation around. So that's what I'll say on that at this point. And that's, I guess, all this is sort of best left for that day and that conversation. So, and the other piece is through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Shea is going to make contact with the area manager to schedule them in for a meeting with us.
Well, our intrepid executive assistant just advised me that they're scheduled to come in already on June 13th. Committee of the Whole.
She's really good.
She's really good. She's really, really good.
I'll make a quick comment to the Deputy Warden. I don't know if they graded the Cleveland Road. I know they graded the Ellis Road and brought that up. Last fall, they done a major work, re-gravel, ditching, and it dried out sooner than later. And I believe they went out, well, I know they graded that, done an excellent job, and it's almost like a 100 series highway if you wanted to travel that fast. But they done an excellent job. I don't know if they graded the Cleveland Road. That I'm not sure. And so I know they've been out a bit, but it has dried up enough that they can start getting out and getting around. But some of them are in bad shape. They really are, and so on. So anyway, that's saying that we will. And I think it's 8.11, a letter to the MP. Was that? Who was that? Okay. Go ahead, Councillor.
Okay, yes, I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to write letters to our MLA and our MP requesting follow-up to the items council discussed and identified as municipal priorities at our previous intergovernmental meetings.
Been moved by Councillor Durkee and seconded by Councillor Cushion. Was there any further discussion on that? If not, I have one little bit of discussion. At one of those meetings with our MP Colin Fraser, the discussion at that time, one of the items that we had discussed was pertaining to Doppler radar. And I haven't had the opportunity to, believe it or not, to speak with Colin at this time, but I do plan on one of these days we'll meet somewhere and have, he did follow up, true to his word, got us a meeting and got the people down here and so on, and still moving that forward. I've had some further discussion and so on with both Ken before he went on vacation and with Greg, you know, and at that meeting, the explanation and so on that they gave us, they're looking at moving one of the radars a little further this way, but not, it's still in Halifax, but we shouldn't lose sight that, you know, if we could still get Doppler radar down this end of the province, it would still be a benefit. I do realize that Doppler, as we were all made well aware, that Doppler is basically for precipitation and so on, but precipitation can cause a lot of grief if it's going to be a lot of heavy rain. We know there's going to be wind and the wave height and so on. But from that, we learned that the possibility of buoys that can measure the waves and so on. And I think we got some information here the other day, can't remember which one, about there's a company out of Halifax or whatever that does this kind of work and so on. And it could have been. I know I read it, and I know when I sent the email off, I asked Liz to put that into the file, so we have that as a follow-up information and so on. So he did come true to his word on that one, which was greatly appreciated by the people here and so on. Councillor LeBlanc.
I read an article, I don't know if that's the one that you're talking about, that you sent about a company in Dartmouth that they had buoys.
Buoys, yeah.
Buoys.
Yeah, wave height buoys and so on.
And the weather forecast was really accurate up in Newfoundland and Sable Island.
Yeah,
and they couldn't understand why we didn't get that kind of information here.
Yeah, well, that's something that, like you say, that's a go forward for us and so on. And that's why I say in the file, because one of the people that spoke to Councillor Cushion asked, their final remark to him was basically hope that it wasn't put on a shelf and left. Well, no, we made the commitment, we'll follow through. It's just that right at this time, there's a lot on that we're getting ready for, like you say, our budgets and everything else that we've been doing. So it's not right on we didn't know it was going to go this way. So it's not on a shelf. We're still going to move forward with it and so on. And that's why, like I say, it's in the file, and we'll be following up with them and so on before we meet. So with that respect. Councillor Cushion?
Yeah, just to add to that, I think, as you said, we'll follow up on it. It's just not put on the shelf and forget about. But I think we have to kind of wait till the major fishing industry, the lobster industry, is over with before we start getting into a lot of the fishermen. Yes, there are still some fishermen that do other types of fishing in the summertime, but I think there's some organizations that will certainly be ready to give us some input, in fishermen give us some input once the
Yeah.
the lobster season's over with. So
Yeah.
I think during the summer, we should really pursue this. In the fall, have a good agenda to follow.
Yeah.
So.
We will. Anyway. Thank you very much. Item number 9 is reports. I don't know, like say audit committee, bylaw and policy review. We already had that this evening on some motions. District planning, hasn't been any. Emergency measures executive committee meeting. There was a meeting last evening. We went over the financial and the proposed budget. Greg has that. Our budget for 17-18, we were down by, I'll say $7,000 and so on. There were some couple of changes and so on. So instead of I think the budget was around 50, so it came in around the 43, if I remember right. Yeah, 42, something like that. And so I mean, it's looking good for 18-19, so on. I had to leave the meeting, and I don't think there was much more on the agenda after that, and so on. But my only concern to that, and I don't know if the deputy warden is, I see his mic's on, if he's going to be asking a question or whatever, but he hadn't received the email for the meeting, and I'm just wondering if he, yeah, go ahead.
I was just about to ask that same question. I'm pretty sure I'm on this
Yeah.
committee, and I had no idea that this meeting was taking place.
I wish to apologize, Mr. Chair. I did not receive the email. I do know that we discussed the date of the next meeting at our last EMO
Yeah.
meeting. And just for anyone who's watching, the warden did call me, but unfortunately, I was unable to attend. I was at work and I could not just up and leave to go,
Okay.
or I
Yeah.
would have been there if I would have
Yeah.
known.
Well, yeah, no, I kind of thought at the last minute when I was sitting there and just before the time at 4:30, so I called you right around that time, and I knew at that, if I called you, you wouldn't have, you wouldn't have been able to make it. by
Last
that
night?
time. Yes.
Actually, I would have been able to make it.
Oh, don't say that.
Yes.
But I only called at 4:30 because I thought both you guys had received the email, so we were kind of waiting, and when you hadn't showed up, what's wrong here, and so on, so, yeah, and so on. So, other than that, everything went fairly well, and so on. So that's the quick one on that, but, Occupational Health and Safety Committee, Heritage Advisory, Planning Advisory Committee, haven't had, Yarmouth County Police Advisory Committee, Yarmouth Recreation Committee. Anything? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Deputy Warden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. As you all know, PAC members, this meeting was also postponed to a later date. I remember last year at our annual general meeting that we went through a lot of items on PAC. PAC has not been anywhere near as busy it has been in the past. However, with that said, there is 2 upcoming agenda items. I've talked about this before in previous committee reports. The PAC is going to be looking at our subdivision bylaws. We're still currently waiting for engineer reports, and the department down below here, the Department of Development, a report from Derek Sutherland. Also, something else that was brought forward to my attention through email from our warden was the tiny houses. I've done a little bit of research into this, and I've forwarded it off to our next PAC meeting when it's held. At this time, I have no date, that we look into this. However, from my conversations with Roger Devine, our development officer, we do have provisions in our current municipal planning strategies and land use bylaws to allow tiny house developments through a development agreement. Roger's going to bring us a report. I have requested that Roger bring us forward a report regarding tiny house developments, and just to not make this meeting any longer than it needs to be, but something that each and every one of you should realize. A tiny house also includes shipping containers.
Ooh. On wheels, or?
No, shipping containers that can be placed on a property. Think about that.
Ooh. Can they be stacked?
Actually, Mr. Chair, there is a developer out in your district that has 2 shipping containers and he uses them as a storage shed. But they also can be lived in, believe it or not. I do know that the town of Yarmouth does also have a tiny house provisions in their municipal planning strategies and bylaws. This was referred to us via email that the mayor had received a question from a resident of the municipality they did not know. And I did not know that the town also had a tiny house bylaw. So what I've done is I have asked our development offices to make sure that all that stuff is in our next available PAC meeting, and you will see it here on our annual reports, or sorry, not your annual reports, but your committee reports that you see every fourth Thursday or fourth Wednesday of the month. So that is something we are working on. I do know that, like I said, we have not been meeting very often this year, so my PAC report at our AGM is going to be quite short, but we are still currently working on things. And if you have any other issues, like the warden forwarded to me, that you would like looked at or didn't know, because I didn't know about tiny houses, please forward them to us, because the PAC is willing to work forward and work for the needs of the people of the municipality.
Thank you very much. Other reports, Friends of the Yarmouth Light, Joint Green Energy Committee, Mariner Center Management Board. The one question I have on that, I haven't noticed any reports from them lately. Now, I may have, has there been, do you know, I mean, any other from the Mariners Management Board? Okay. Well, that's what I thought, but I didn't know if I'd been missing them or whatever. The Regional Economic Management Board, Southwest Nova Biosphere Reserve, Western County Regional Library, YASTA, Waste Check. As I mentioned earlier, we had a meeting here just on the 19th. There was went over a few issues and so on. One of them again was on the plastic. Our region has submitted a letter off to regional chairs and so on. We are waiting for one other region to submit 2 regional chairs pertaining to the request of the Minister of Environment and so on. And after reading, because I sit on the regional chairs, after reading all of the submissions by the different regions and so on, I will commend the municipality of the District of Yarmouth on the motion that you put forward from us to Region 7, Waste Check. Not being biased or anything, but I thought that the way the motion was worded by the Deputy Warden was really, really well done and very appropriate. It took a lot of the onus off of the municipality and put the onus back onto the Department of Environment, that we would support the Department of Environment and the provincial government in whatever decision they made on the plastic bag issue and so on. And a lot of the other municipal units had all kinds of different wordings and so on. They support, some of them, like say, supported the banning of the single-use plastic bag and so on. One region supported the banning of plastic bags, and no disrespect to CAOs and wardens and mayors. The mayors and wardens got together and they submitted a letter from that same said region back to the region telling them not to support a single use. And so the wardens and CAOs have caused a big an upset within the region, and they approached and said, I didn't know that the CAOs and wardens on their own could make a decision telling us not to support. So I don't know where that'll go. They were looking at either through the ombudsman or through municipal affairs, where they have the right. So they submitted originally a letter to support the use of the banning of single-use plastic bags. then they get a letter stating not to support this banding. So that one there is kind of on a holding pattern right now to see what happens with that region. But that's where it is. That's why we'll be presenting at the spring workshop for UNSM, is pertaining to the single-use plastic bag and EPR and so on. It's not an issue that's going to go away tomorrow. And that was one of the issues that we had when Mark was in Truro. There was quite a discussion on for farmers and the use of silage wrap. And in the room, there had been a lot of farmers had been invited to come to that agricultural composting and so on. And the question was asked, what do you do with it? Burn it. We bury it. We just stockpile it. So every one of the farmers in that area, and Colchester itself, they take and bale it and so on, and they sit on it. That's what, you know, they're just sitting on it. There's nothing they can do with it because it's contaminated. But in order to get it off the fields, get it over the area and so on, they bale it and just hold on to it and so on. So it's still an issue out there. And solid waste is still, you have to remember, it is one of your top 4 items in your budget. Okay? The education and policing and so on. And it varies in different municipal units. It'll be either 3rd or 4th, but it's always right up there in the top 4 of your budget lined items. Yarmouth Area Industrial Commission, John and Lauren, you were at those meetings. I don't know if there is, if you want to make any type of a report or anything, verbal report at this time? No? No? Okay, the only thing is, I'll let the general public know, is they all well realize that the Domtex building has been gone for a while, and we're just finishing off on the finalization of that. It's just about all completed. The Industrial Commission is working now on the wharfage in Yarmouth and so on, with the Lobster Rock Public and the Marginal Wharf and so on, working on fulfilling our commitments there and so on, and to the lobster fishing or lobster fishers and so on, trying to work with them on a collaborative basis and so on to move that forward. There's a couple other issues that we're dealing with and so on, and have faith in our acting general manager to be able to fulfill those requirements. Yarmouth Town and County Crime Prevention Association, Yarmouth Waterfront Development Authority. So was there anything to there? Hearing none. Then item number 10, in-camera meeting recommendation. Who has that? Councillor Durkee.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to execute order to remedy PID 901799037 as recommended by our development department.
I second that.
Been moved by Councillor Durkee, seconded by Deputy Warden. Discussion.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay. Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you. And is there one more? Go ahead, Councillor Durkee.
Yeah.
Councillor Allen.
I'd like to make a motion to execute the order to remedy for PIN number 90139924.
Been moved by Councillor Allen. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Durkee. Was there any further discussion on that motion? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Was there any further business of council at this time? Thank you very much.